Good morning and welcome. My name is Kathy Slade, and I serve on your Fellowship Board of Directors. I want to thank you all for being here today and extend a special welcome to any visitors with us today. Please stay on after the service for our virtual coffee hour, where you may introduce yourself if you are comfortable and join in conversation. Today, we will be extending our small group breakouts for an additional 5 minutes, for a total of 15, based on the feedback we received from the congregational survey. At this week's meeting, the board voted unanimously to extend the closure of the fellowship building through June, or until the regathering task force makes different recommendations. We will continue to have periodic check-ins and stay tuned to the recommendations of the UUA and community health experts. This shift will allow us to get through the roof replacement project, which is going to take up space in our parking area, as well as allow us time for setting up hybrid attendance systems. It will also give the board enough time to fully analyze the congregational survey results and prioritize the many elements of a reopening plan. While it's hard to remain apart for so long, we remain committed to providing a safe environment for all who call our fellowship home. So on behalf of this caring, nurturing congregation, I welcome each and every one of you to this sacred space. Here we invite you into an experience of transformation, hope, renewal, and connections, which may inspire you to understand life in new ways. Thank you very much for joining us today.
Good morning, this is Dan Haug. We have a special service this morning, Earth Sunday service, Pathways to Healing and Regeneration, with elements created by the UU Ministry for the Earth, including the reflection by Reverend Yadini Hailu. So I hope you enjoy this morning. We begin our service with the ringing of the chime 3 times. The first to wake the chime, the second to open our minds, the third to open our hearts.
In the world of the driven, let us be drawn in. Let your love be a given, let us be drawn in. To imagine, to dream, to create, to redeem. For the sake of the living, let us be drawn in.
We light this chalice in the hope that we can bring more light and less heat to a warming world, to replace the energy of fossil fuels with the energy of our shared purpose.
In the world of the driven, let us be drawn in. Let your love be a given, let us be drawn in. To imagine, to dream, to create, to redeem. For the sake of the living, let us be drawn in.
Our opening words are read by Reverend Florence Kaplow, the lead minister at the UU Church of Urbana-Champaign, and an ordained Zen priest and teacher.
In the ancient way of the earth, the great cycles come and go, winter and spring, living to dying, to living again. Winter trees awakening, insects coming out of their long sleep in last year's leaves, hawks courting on the wing, making wild love in the spring sky. exuberant blooms reminding us that life comes back again and again from death and brokenness. In this time, at all times, may we remember, we are not the owners of this earth. We are not the stewards of this earth. For all our power to destroy, we are merely children, children of the great cycle, children of the ancient ways. May we find the humility to accept our true place, to lean down to the cold ground and kiss the soil, to lie on our backs in the green grass and let the earth hold us at last, as she has always held us, life after life, change after change. Earth made us who we are, bipedal mammals who speak and laugh, but also whose delusions of grandeur lead us to think that we matter more than we do. The earth is waiting for us to wake up. May the earth lead us back into right relationship with all her children, from centipedes to mountains. I call upon the earth herself to help heal us from our confusion and re-enter the sacred dance with outstretched hands.
Our opening song is by Nick Newland and Leah Morris. Springtime Will Come.
This old world may be sleeping, but we have been dreaming, dreaming of a brighter day. Some of us keeping our minds on the reason. Beautiful season is coming our way. Today could be the day. Hey, little flower, you got the power to push through green blankets. You're ready to grow. Hey there, sweet bluebird, tell me what you heard. I want to sing that great song that you know. Wake from your slumber and try to remember a time when we all were together as one. A new day is coming, yes, there will be sunshine. Wipe away teardrops, springtime will come. It's been so lonely, but that was only our chance to realize the love that we need. Come take my hand now, let's make a plan how to stay wide awake. Let's fly you and me away. Wake from your slumber and try to remember a time when we all were together as one. A new day has come, tell me you feel the sun. Wipe away teardrops, springtime has come. I'm wide awake now.
Hello, I'm the Reverend Elizabeth Mount, and I'm here to tell you about the sweet story of a honeybee. So on a bright and beautiful day in the land of might have been, where the land sings and the animals talk just as plain as you and me, a young honeybee was just waking up from their sleep. Now this honeybee was a drone. As you might know already, there are in a honeybee hive just one queen of the hive, several consorts of the queen, and many, many drones who are the workers of the hive. Well, this young drone, appropriately named Beatrice, had just grown up enough to take their first flight out of the hive to begin harvesting the nectar and the pollen that bees need in order to feed themselves and make honey to store for their winter food. Beatrice was so excited about their first flight and just buzzed off to begin gathering nectar, coming back as fast as they could fly with a full tiny basket of pollen and all the nectar it was possible to carry. Again and again, Beatrice zipped off to fill up and zoomed back like the tiniest little superhero, just swooshing and swishing through the air. By mid-afternoon, Beatrice was very tired from all of this zipping and zooming about, and not a little cranky too. It had only been one day, but bees don't live very long. And, well, Beatrice was concerned at how small the pile of pollen was, how very little nectar she seemed to have gathered for the hive. Beatrice stopped to rest for a moment near an elder drone by the name of Abigail. One drop, and not even a big drop, Beatrice pouted. Yes, one small sweet drop, Abigail replied, but in a much different tone of voice. Yes, it looks small, and in your entire life, you'll probably gather no more than enough nectar for 1/12 of 1 teaspoon of honey. Then why even bother? Asked Beatrice. It doesn't seem like I make much of any difference at all. Well, said Abigail, if we all gave up, then what would happen? Well, I guess there wouldn't be any more honey or pollen, and then the queen would stop having babies, and the young would stop being fed, and the colony might die off. That's right, said Abigail. You only make a small bit of honey, but that small amount, and my small amount, and all of our drone comrades together, we make as much as 6 or 10 gallons of honey every year. So much that without tending from a beekeeper, we could fill up a hollow tree or a vacant hive, and we'd have to move on every couple of seasons. It turns out that everyone's small effort is the only way to sweet success for this hive and for all honeybees. Wow, said Beatrice. I guess I'd better get back to doing my part. Well, said Abigail, that's not quite right either. Rest for a moment and gather yourself. Make sure you're fed and well before you go back out there. You see, everyone's effort is necessary, but it also matters that you're well nourished and sustained and that you have fun. Don't just gather the pollen as fast as you can. Stop to smell the flowers too. You'll be happier, and the whole hive will benefit from it because you'll be part of a whole community that's healthy and well. Oh, said Beatrice, but don't we need to get as much honey as possible for the winter? Abigail paused a moment because this was a tender lesson to impart. The answer is yes, and really, said Abigail. The truth is that honeybees only live for a few weeks, and neither you nor I will perhaps ever see the winter time. But what we gather and how we choose to be in this time, that will leave a legacy for the future. And we'll teach the bees who come after us how to be a bee. And with that, Beatrice understood, and Bee and Abby shared a tiny cup of tea, sweetened with an even tinier drop of honey. And they watched the wind and the sunshine play over the flowers before going back to work, a bit wiser and better for their conversation. I hope this story makes you feel a little wiser and better and more ready to be a part of your community of resilience. Blessed be.
This is the time in our service when we share the milestones in our life, things that are bringing us joy or challenge or appreciation. If you have a milestone to share, please unmute your microphone, introduce yourself, and then let us know when you're finished so that we don't talk over each other. This is our time of sharing.
Hi, this is Carol Elbert. I have a happy milestone to share. My sister Karen Lewis is visiting me from Florida. Hello all. Thank you for listening.
Hi, this is Suzanne Zilber, and I have several milestones to share. The first one is that on Friday, April 9th, that was the 16th year of seeing my first client in my solo private practice after I had worked at student counseling at Iowa State before that. And then on April 10th, I got a public service award from the Iowa Psychological Association for volunteer work I did for sort of Iowa psychology, but also they included work I've done for the fellowship and the denomination. And then this last Friday, I informed my last client that I will be closing my psychotherapy practice mid-August, and and my practice is for sale. So it's got a wonderful downtown location and beautiful furnishings. And it's, of course, a bittersweet thing to close. And I'm not in a position to say why now at this time, but maybe sometime in the future I'll be able to share that. Just lots of change in my life, and wanted to make sure you all were sort of in the know and not hearing it through other sort of weird grapevine sources. So thank you for being my extended family during all of my time here, and for being a group that I can share these important milestones with. I am finished. Thank you.
This is Kay Berger. Am I on? Yeah. And I would like to share, I don't see my picture up there, but I would like to share that the Red Friars had their very first dance that it was called the Masked Ball. And that's because everybody had masks on, and we got to dress up. And we were 6 feet apart from all of our other dancers. We could of course dance together, but we had a wonderful time out at the Moose Club. There were about 20 couples out there that had a marvelous time with a live band. So I'd like to share that. Roger and I both had a wonderful time out there. And I'm through.
This is Rella Fox, and I'd like to share with you that last Tuesday we made a big move to North Crest. We are in one of the high-rise apartments, and we're pretty well settled, largely thanks to our son who came from California to help us. And boy, was he a trooper. He worked hard. And fortunately, because Dave has a hand injury, that he wasn't able to do any lifting. So we're very grateful to our son. Thank you.
I have 2 milestones to share. The first one, I want to light a candle for Hector Avalos, who died on April 12 at the young age of 62. He was a professor of religious studies at Iowa State University, and he had spoken at the fellowship several times and was always very interesting to hear. And my second milestone is my son and daughter-in-law and youngest grandson visited this last weekend, and the first time I had seen them in person for a year and a half. And so that was just wonderful. So I'm done. Thank you.
This is Jean Eels, and I had the privilege this week of hearing 2 presentations that I think are real appropriate to bring up on Earth Week. And Prairie Rivers of Iowa is working on 2 things that I think are just brilliant and amazing. One is a nectar network, and the work they've gone to in creating maps that will help put conservation practices out in areas where it will do the most good for pollinators is just spectacular. And I just want to bring these things up because it's nice to know that there's something really good happening. And also water quality testing that is being looked at in a much more comprehensive way. And it is also equally brilliant to have the ways that they're looking at networking things, putting databases together that haven't necessarily been coordinated as well. And I'll just give a shout out to Dan Haug because that's some of his work. It was just really heartening to hear that in the midst of a lot of other negative news. Just know that in our community and surrounding area that there's some really quality work going on amongst many other, but it was just really, really heartening. So that I'm done.
This is Ronnie Kahn, and my friend Linda Schroeder has been going through a terrible time. Her son was diagnosed with cancer, and he can't get tested because in the area where he lives, the only person who does the CT testing has moved away, and he has to wait his turn. She came home from Arizona to see her aunt, but her aunt died on Friday night, and she wasn't able to see her. And her husband just got out of the hospital for his 2nd surgery on the same thing. So please hold Linda in your thoughts and prayers. Thank you.
Hello, my name is Allison Grundy, and I just wanted to share that this past week on April 14th, the Ames Public Library hosted an excellent panel discussion on climate action planning in Iowa. We had folks from Cedar Rapids area, actually Lynn County, Iowa City, and Des Moines, and it was just really well done, and I would love for anybody to watch the recording. I highly recommend it, and I'll drop the link in the chat here. Also, coming up April 27th, we expect that the City of Ames will announce the consultants that they will hire to help Ames write the climate action plan here for our community, but you know, we'll see how that works into their other agendas that they have going on. It's been delayed a couple times, but that's our expected date. So we'll keep you posted on that too. Thank you so much.
This is Irv Kloss. I would like to mention that Hayden Park is a big area for pollinators. And the city had the opportunity to expand that by 170 acres on the west side of the park by expanding it. They refused to do so. Think of what that benefits that would have brought to the city. The watershed protection for one thing, pollinator habitat, 170 acres, which is not a small piece of land. Third, carbon sequestration and additional recreation community. Why they have turned to a developer to build on it is beyond my understanding. But of course, it costs money. And somehow we've got to raise money in order to the Friends of Hayden Park are not discontinuing their efforts to have this done. So if anybody can help with that, perhaps with the source of grant money or whatever, we can do it. Just like we did with Hallett's Quarry, we should be able to do this area as well.
If there are no other milestones, let's have a moment of silence, holding these milestones spoken as well as those left unspoken in our hearts. It is good to be together. We have some special music now from Emma's Revolution. Our House is on Fire.
Put out the fire, put out the fire, put out the fire, our house is on fire. Put out the fire, put out the fire, put out the fire, our house is on fire. We love you, we hear you, we commit to change our ways, not later, but sooner, right now, for your future. Youth can't wait, put out the fire. Women can't wait, put out the fire. Blind can't wait, put out the fire. Our house is on fire. For our children, put out the fire. And their children, put out out the fire. And let children put out the fire. Our house is on fire. For songbirds, for clean air, for the oceans and the plains. Not later, but sooner, right now. For our future, melting glaciers, put out the fire. Rising seas, put out the fire. Bleaching coral, put out the fire. Our house is on fire. Shrinking shoreline, put out the fire. Sinking island, put out the fire. Growing dry land, put out the fire. Our house is on fire. Let bees live, let trees grow. Let the snow fall where it may. Not later, but sooner, right now. For the future, right now. For the future, right now. We are here to put out the fire. This is how we put out the fire. Time is now. We put out the fire. Our house is on fire.
Our reflection today is by Reverend Yadini Hailu, an Ethiopian American Black woman based in Tulsa, Oklahoma. She is a writer, speaker, facilitator, and project manager. Her community ministry, Black Earth, is a love letter to the earth and Black people, inviting all carbon life to return to rest and right relationship as its baseline. She believes life's first mandate is to flourish and its second is to heal. This is the mission Black Earth supports for persons who desire to curate a lifestyle of healing and to shape their relationships and community towards wholeness.
Today we have taken inspiration from Greta Thunberg, who is a young Swedish female autistic climate activist whose speech at the World Economic Forum in 2019 inspired the song by Emma's Revolution, Our House is on Fire. Here's an excerpt of Greta's speech. Our house is on fire. I'm here to say our house is on fire. We have to stop the emissions of greenhouse gases, and either we do that or we don't. You say that nothing in life is black or white, but that's a lie, a very dangerous lie. Because either we prevent 1.5 degrees Celsius of warming or we don't. Either we choose to go on as a civilization or we don't. That is as black or white as it gets. Greta is clear. She is practical. I respect it. Greta says we must shift nearly every aspect of society urgently to attempt survival as a species on this planet. But what is stopping us? As a minister that trusts and centers life, I ask what prevents reasonable and natural right action. This is the dilemma that we must resolve to address the core source of the environmental mess that colonization and really capitalism has whipped us into in just a matter of a couple centuries. We've been presented a cultural framework with binaries that failed. Like Greta says, and male and female are blood snippets of truth from a historical and scientific evidence that there is much more and is ever shaping and shifting. Day and night are short changes of the reality that dawn and dusk also exist. Yet Greta says there are some black and white truths. She says either we choose to go on as a civilization or we don't. Well, today, I present to you my black and white truth. This duality is at the core of not just the human experience, but what I often call the carbon experience. the network of life we belong to and cycle through. Like bees, part of a colony, our bodies are part of a larger organism, an organized system. Here it is. Either we center life or we're glitching. Here's the science behind it. The autonomic nervous system in vertebrates is the part of the nervous system that controls and regulates the internal organs without any conscious recognition or effort by the organism. The autonomic nervous system comprises of two antagonistic sets of nerves, the sympathetic and the parasympathetic nervous systems. The parasympathetic nervous system is the baseline state of life. This is the state of rest, ease, when the immune system is active, when digestion is processed and healing happens. The sympathetic nervous system is the need-based mode for survival. You've probably heard of it as fight, flight, freeze, and collapse. And it's when most of the organism's energy is targeted to survive. I call it a lunge for life. And frankly, it makes me pontificate. The poetry of organisms that are pre-programmed for life, preservation, and protection. And how it could have gone so wrong. Well, unlike wild plants and animals, humans have an uncanny ability to disrupt the completion of the sympathetic nervous system. And basically, we glitch. We get stuck in the sympathetic system as trauma isn't allowed to process and return to the parasympathetic. That energy becomes traffic jammed in our bodies, throwing off our reasoning, our processing, our perspective, our physiological regulating abilities. In short, rest and survival are the two systems that construct and sustain life. And so either we are centering life or we're glitching. If we desire to sustain life, if we desire to save our chance at inhabiting this planet, to defend all human Black bodies, Indigenous bodies, people of color, disabled, queer, women, trans bodies, if we desire justice and equity in our social order, we must restore these two systems in our bodies and in our cultures. Because our culture glamorizes hustle and busy and avoids rest. We believe excess isn't enough and there isn't enough for everyone. We think that hoarding wealth and resources is just the name of the game instead of ecosystem sabotage. We glorify monocrops and the erasure of biodiversity and nutrient density with our manicured, inedible monocrop lawns, with our gender preference for males and patriarchy, or the race glorification with white supremacy, or a bias for abled bodies and culturally attractive bodies with ableism and body shaming and fat phobia, and again and again and again, I can name the social effects of our house on fire, of trauma unaddressed, of nervous systems glitching in survival mode. Today and onwards, let us be clear in curating pathways to healing repressed energy. Because what we are doing outside of our bodies, we are also complicit within them. Do you get what I'm saying? I'm saying hurt bodies. That the repressed grief, anger, fear, shame, emotions, that energy in our bodies, just like those of our ancestors, will shape a world of repression, grief, anger, fear, shame, leading to inflammation and festering. We fuel a pressure cooker that, as the laws of physics demand, will be released one of two ways. One, by relief valve, with intentionality and regulated and sustaining life. Or two, by force. It will burst out. This pressure cooker of repression inside ourselves mirrors what we have turned our atmosphere into, stuffed with greenhouse gases, heating us all up. It is outside as it is maintained inside. Our house is on fire, y'all, and the source is us. The diagnosis is clear. Hurt bodies, and our relationship to life as Homo sapiens still easily can skew towards self-sabotage. So we must build a lifestyle of healing, constantly bolstering our resilience and addressing emotions as they present themselves. This is our call. Leah Morris gave us the equation in their song titled Spring Thing, and in the chorus, Leah sings beautifully, Wake up from your slumber. Try to remember a time when we all were together as one. A new day has come. Tell me you feel the sun. Wipe away teardrops. Springtime has come. I'm wide awake now. Let us explore this chorus to identify our pathways to healing. First, Leah implores us to wake up from our slumber, just like Greta urges and Emma's Revolution sings. Our house is on fire. But how is the question? Well, each of these guided invitations that follow are experiences, and I'll break them down. Please make note in your body how you feel and what comes up. Make note what pings true in your bones and what your body asks for to continue healing. First, Leah invites us to try to remember a time when we all were together as one. Y'all, I want to start with the basis that the earth is not exotic, it's not foreign. The earth isn't even really outside or other from ourselves. It isn't a gift to us or something we must rile up abstract empathy for as a separate object. We are the Black Earth itself. This is the roots of my community ministry for and by Black millennials and Gen Zers, to describe and support an ecosystem of spiritual wellness and to center life. Though we are not only our bodies unite us with all carbon in a shared experience of returning to healing and wholeness with other human bodies, animal bodies, plants and soil bodies. And if at the core of your cosmology you lack clarity of our oneness in a real and tangible way, let me read you this excerpt from a book I've recently read. Once upon a time, there was a universe. We're not sure about how it started or whether there is a reason, but we are pretty sure that during the first sliver of a trillionth of a second, it expanded very rapidly, so that for the most part, it looked the same in every direction and looked the same from every position. It was sameness everywhere, except that particles started to blip out of nothing due to random fluctuations caused by quantum effects. Maybe in space-time, we're still not sure about that. Then again, we're not super sure about this either, but for some reason, those particles formed more matter than antimatter. That process started to form structures, and from those structures, stars formed. Then the stars got old. Some of them died in super epic, rather fabulous fashion, and they exploded into supernova, making heavy elements like carbon and oxygen in the process. Those elements went on to be the basis for all life on Earth. Neil deGrasse Tyson quite beautifully says, "We are stardust brought to life by the universe so that the universe can figure itself out." Try and remember a time when we all were together as one, and do this often, my loves. Leah goes on, "A new day has come." Octavia Butler has rooted the ultimate truth of change throughout her Parable of the Sower series, where protagonist Lauren Olamina observes and explains a theology resilient and relevant in a chaotic and tragedy-filled society. Let's meditate on it. All that you touch, you change. All that you change changes you. The only lasting truth is change. God is change. When you feel stiff-necked, when your mind is narrowed and limited in possibilities, when you are stuck in survival and need to disrupt the pattern of pain, remember, the lasting truth is change. We consciously and unconsciously shape change, and change consciously and unconsciously shapes us. Whether for the better or worse, change is promised in the forecast. A new day comes. So now, what can we do with it? When Leah sings, "Tell me you feel the sun," I hear them asking us to remember in the midst of change, in our bodies, the shared blessing of pleasure. That ease and rest, the liminal space where we heal and restore our souls. So let me tell you a memory I revisit often to tap my body into ease and the parasympathetic. A few years ago, I visited friends in Trinidad, and one day we were hiking and searching out waterfalls in a lush, dense, and vibrant forest. I left my shoes in the car, and walking barefoot in a jungle brought me more present, humble. We climbed over trees and crawled under branches. We walked alongside and in the river, sometimes laughing, sometimes silent. When we got to the waterfall, I gazed at the top hundreds of feet above us. I swam out and sat under the falls, and hundreds of gallons of water shook my body and cleared my mind. I slipped back into the pool, crafted by nature, filled with the crashing water, and followed my body's instinct to float on my back. In moments that felt like forever, with my ears under the water, I could hear the waterfall churning, my heart beating, engulfed in life, vibrant and pounding, and I felt ecstatically connected. My eyes looked up at the tree canopy with slivers of sunlight dancing through. I felt in that moment I was in a familiar dream. I was not my body. I couldn't feel where I ended and the water, the wind, the sky, the trees began. It was connection, peace, and fullness. So much I didn't notice warm salt water leave my eyes and join the overflow all around me. Beloveds, to one another and most importantly, to your body, tell them when and how you feel the sun. Revisit it. Draw from this embodied well that needn't run dry. Next, Leah reminds us to wipe away teardrops. I hear in the harmony and lyrics the imperative to process our trauma. I'm not asking if you've exposed your nervous system to tragedy porn regularly, or if you slump under the weight of existential terror and anxiety with your friends. I'm not asking us to attempt centering life via shame or fear. When I ask, have you wiped your tears? I'm asking, have you explored self-sabotage trauma responses in you? It may very well be overwhelm or shame or terror. Have you sat with love and curiosity for your frenzy? Have you listened to the anxiety behind your desperation to flee? Have you ritualized and strengthened with practice your tolerance and skills for managing discomfort, even though you've learned to deny and avoid conflict like a pro? Have you sat with your anger until it revealed fear or sadness? Then, have you stayed as your body, your carbon-made, life pre-programmed body, witnessed as it processed the obstacles to wholeness and digested stuck and festering emotions? Have you gathered the wisdom from your bones and made an altar for them? Have you been with the pain human society has feared facing for centuries and survived, returning with the sureness that life returns to life? Woe ya ya. Have you wiped teardrops, beloved? If not, make haste in building a lifestyle of healing so you can install a pressure valve in your body, not only for this accumulated and the upcoming traumas that you will experience in your life, but also for all that is stored and eager for release from your ancestors who forgot or were obstructed from the way to healing. This is our teleological imperative, first to flourish, and second to heal any obstacle to flourishing. Finally, Leah sings, "Springtime has come, I'm wide awake now." In short, rinse and repeat. This is a lifestyle of remembering and returning, of processing and acknowledging. It is the motion from rest to survival and back again that we access the fullness of our life force energy. We are awake and able to put out the fire. So remember our oneness and the inevitability of change. Soak your body regularly in organic and earnest pleasure and rest. Make spiritual the lifestyle of healing. Then repeat, beloveds. Each one of us has the power to shape change and widen the pathways for healing for all life. May you remember you are beloved, and go forth and be love. May it be so.
Hello, and thank you so much for including this special offertory for the UU Ministry for Earth in your community worship service this morning. UU Ministry for Earth's mission is to be a wellspring of spiritual and educational grounding and practical support for bold, accountable action for environmental justice, climate justice, and the flourishing of all life. I hope you enjoy this short video to learn more about UUMFE's core values and priorities. The Unitarian Universalist Ministry for Earth is rooted in core values of faith and spirituality, environmental justice, partnership, and collective action. We are inspired to facilitate UU practices that honor and sustain the earth and all beings. We are ready to create climate justice, showing up in solidarity with Indigenous frontline communities and catalyzing a just transition to an ecological civilization through strengthening local climate commitments, advocating for a Green New Deal, and more. We are fortifying a powerful and united network of Unitarian Universalists working for Earth justice. Join us. Your support for this ministry is so important. The relationship between humanity and our living Earth is in crisis. How we navigate this time and these next few decades will impact all life for generations and centuries to come. Our moral principles and living tradition of this faith call us to be among the change makers, working together to heal, working together to end oppression and exploitation of all kinds, working together to restore balance and respect for the great web of life of which we are just a small part. Our offertory for UU Ministry for Earth will now be collected. Please give generously, and please know that your gifts are gratefully received and will be put to immediate use to serve this greater purpose and calling. Thank you.
The closing hymn is Woyaya, performed by the Spring 13 Virtual Choir.
We are going, heaven knows where we are going.
Our closing words are A Common Destiny by Reverend David H. Eaton, read by Paula Cole-Jones and Rashid Sheikh.
All living substance, all substance of energy, being, and purpose are united and share the same destiny.
All people, those we love and those we know not of, are united and share the same destiny.
Birth to death, we share this unity with the sun, earth,
our brothers and sisters, strangers,
flowers of the field, snowflakes, volcanoes, and moonbeams.
birth, life, death, unknown, known, unknown.
Our destiny, from unknown to unknown.
May we have the faith to accept this mystery and build upon its everlasting truth. Amen, Amin, Akshay. Go in peace.